Hello everyone, welcome back to Believers IAS Academy Bengaluru. This is the NCERT topic discussion, and today we are going to discuss NCERT Polity 6th standard and the last two chapters. If you want to learn about previous chapters, you can search the Believers IAS channel and you can go to playlist where we have taught about NCERT Polity. We will be continuing the series. After 6th standard, we will do the 7th standard. So in 6th standard, chapter number 8 and chapter number 9, they deal with livelihoods. Okay, what is livelihood? Livelihood nothing but something to gather for their life. Okay, like any work from which they get paid. With the amount they get paid, they run their livelihood. Okay, that is livelihoods. And in rural livelihoods, and there are urban livelihoods. Urban and rural. So we'll see what are the different kinds of livelihoods in urban and rural areas, and what are the important livelihoods in rural area, and what are the different livelihoods within rural areas, and then we will compare that to the urban areas. Okay, first we'll start about rural livelihoods. In rural livelihoods, there are many different occupations. As we know, there are mainly, you can divide them into two parts. One is farming, meaning those who are involved in agricultural activities, either farming on the agricultural land or they are working in others agricultural land. Another one is non-farming. Okay, these are the basic distinctions between rural livelihoods mainly. Okay, a traditional rural livelihood are determined between or differentiated between farming and non-farming. Farming is agriculture based. Non-farming is anything other than agriculture, such as ironsmith, blacksmith, okay, a street vendor, etc., etc. So here there are different occupations. They are giving an example of Kalpattu village. Okay, Kalpattu village. They say that people in these villages are involved in different professions such as blacksmiths, teacher, washermen, weavers, barbers, mechanics, shopkeepers and traders, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so these are all non-farming activities, and other things are agricultural activities, that is farming activities. Then there are variety of shops also. That is, according to this chapter, just a brief discussion. Village has variety of small shops such as tea shops, grocery stores, barber shops, cloth shops, tailor shops, fertilizer and seed shops. Okay, these are the different types of shops through which a person earns livelihood in rural areas. Okay, and then about farmings. Okay, farmers, according to them, in Kalpattu village there are laborers and farmers. What is the difference between laborers and farmers? All of them depend on the farming, but farmers cultivate in their own land and sell their products in the market, and some people in the village depend upon the forest, animal, etc., etc. Whereas laborers, these are the laborers that work in another farmer, another like farm. They work as a laborer in another agricultural activities. A person who owns the farm, another person comes and work in that farm. A person who is owning the farm and cultivating in his farm is called a farmer, and a person coming from another area and working in those farm are called as laborers. Okay, so these are the difference between farmers and livelihood. Okay, and then along with the farm, there are many people who also depend on forest, animal husbandry, dairy produce and fishing, etc., etc. Okay, these are types of activities on which a person's livelihood depends upon. And they have given an example of a woman farmer. The woman, according to this story, there is a woman named Tulsi. She works in the farmland of Ramalingam and does various work like transplanting paddy, weeding and harvesting. She earns 40 rupees daily, and she also does household tasks like cooking, cleaning, washing and clothes. Okay, even though she is a single person, she acts as a woman, like she acts as a laborer in another farmer's like field, and she also works part-time as cooking, cleaning, washing clothes, etc., etc. Okay, she is like employed in many other like occupations. Okay, and okay, so they also talked about issues of farmers in a briefly, just a brief discussion. They said that farmers are always in debt. Okay, being in debt, that is, farmers borrow money to fulfill basic needs of the farmland. Okay, that is to bring inputs such as seeds, fertilizers, mechanization, etc. For that you need some sort of investment, and for that investment you are going to borrow from someone else, such as money lender or someone as landowner or zamindars, etc. Sometimes they are unable to return the loan due to the failure of monsoon, which results in debt and finally major loss of distress. Normally what happens here is, so this is the farmer, he goes and takes loan from the money lender or landlord or zamindar, etc. He owns the money, like he owes them money, and he thinks that by producing enough amount he will get the profit and return the money. That is the like optimum scenario. If the monsoon is right, if the product is right, and if the productivity is also good and he gets enough production, then he's going to sell those in the market and get the profit, like above and whatever the cost he put for input, and then he is going to repay the money lender. But normally what happens in India, because it is dependent so thoroughly or solely on the monsoons in many of the regions, that is called as dry land farming. Whenever there is failure in monsoon, it is going to adversely impact the farm production. Okay, you understand, right? You adversely impact farm production, and because they already are under the debt, they, because of failure of monsoon, they are unable to repay the rent or repay the money they owe to money lenders. In this case, what happens here is, these money lenders who lend at an exorbitant interest rate, they are going to ask them for the repayment in terms of land instead of money. Okay, in terms of land instead of money. And this is how small farmers in villages are going to lose their land. They are going to lose their land, and they are going to give their land to the money lenders or landowners such as zamindars, etc. That is how the farmer who owned the land is now converting into laborer. Okay, this has been the process since the ages in India. Okay, this is still being continued in India. So that are the issues of farmers, and this in many times what happens here is, unable to repay the amount, many farmers commit suicide because of the failure of monsoons and the failure of products, etc. So as we have said that some sources of livelihood include farming and collection of mahua, tendu leaves, honey, etc. from the forest are important source of livelihood in villages along with farming. And they are given an example of pudupet. We talked about kalpat. Okay, we talked about kalpattu, and now they are talking about pudupattu. Pudupet. A pudupet is a village which is near to a river. So in there, people earn their living by fishing in the sea in this area. It is near to a sea, so they earn their living by fishing. So the employment here is fishing, or the work there involved here is fishing. And how they are earning livelihood is catching the fish and selling that in the market, and the money they are getting from the selling of fish they are using for its livelihoods. So catamarans are also called as fishing boats, are used for fishing, and they return the cost with their catch to sell in the market, and usually take loans from the banks to purchase catamarans and nets and engines. So their input differs from the inputs of farmers. For farmers, the inputs is seeds, fertilizers, like etc., pesticides, etc. For fishermen, the input is this catamaran, nets and engines. Okay, so the input depends on the different jobs. Okay, and then so in farmers, it involves operations such as preparing the land, sowing, weeding and harvesting crops. And in India, nearly 2 out of every 5 rural families are agriculture labor families. Okay, they are dependent on agriculture for their livelihood. The members of these families usually work in other people's fields to earn a living. These are agricultural laborers, not the farmers. They work in others' land for agriculture or land for their livelihood. In India, 80% of the farmers belong to this group. Okay, that is, they are dependent on another farmer. Only 20% of the Indian farmers are well off. Okay, so many people in rural also depend upon, we already discussed that as. And another thing, there is migration, that is movement of large number of people from one place to another place to find jobs. This migration can be internal or intra Okay, this can be external or intra. Okay, what is external? That is, if you are belonging to a village, you are moving to like urban area in search of livelihood. That is external. Like external, that is you are moving from village to urban or rural to urban migration. And then if it is intra, it is just moving within the villages to villages, that is from one area of village to another area. This migration at a larger area can also be between states to states, within state, or at the larger level between countries. Okay, so there is different types of migration depending upon their needs and their aspirations. Then, so there is another type of farming which is called as terrace farming. They just mentioned it about. That is, terrace farming is a type of farming in which land on the hill slope is made into flat tops and carved out of steps. These sides of each plot are raised in order to retain water. This allows water to stand in the field, which is suitable for rice cultivation. Normally, if this is the like hill slope, what they are going to do is they are going to convert this hill slope into these type of terraces. Okay, this is hill, and they are converting this into hill terraces. And at the end of these hill terraces, they are going to raise a slope like this. They are going to raise the bund so that whatever the water is being like put there, it doesn't flow from one raised platform to another platform. It doesn't result in soil erosion. This is terrace farming, and these are some like livelihoods which people in rural areas involved in. Mainly, the summary of this chapter is livelihood in rural areas is mainly revolving around farming and non-farming. In farming, mainly agricultural farmers or agricultural laborers. In non-farming activities, either as a blacksmith or ironsmith, or what are the other things, collecting for funds, like collecting minor forest produces, and then shopkeepers and teachers, traders. So these are some sort of livelihoods which people belonging to villages are involved in. Okay, so this is the summary, and also they have talked about issues related to agriculture farmers and issues related to agriculture laborers, and they also talked about fishing. Okay, fishing. So these are all the issues which have been discussed in this chapter. And then now we are going to move to urban for like livelihoods, how the rural and urban area the livelihood differs. Okay, so basically what is the difference between rural and urban areas, rural versus urban areas? So main difference here is the economy. Okay, in rural areas the economy is mainly surrounding around agriculture, whereas in urban area it is surrounded around manufacturing and services. Okay, and the jobs here are also, they are less specialized. Here they are more specialized. Okay, more specialized. And again, the pay or the salary is less in village and high in urban areas. And cost of living, obviously when the pay is high, cost of living is also going to be high. Cost of living in rural areas is low or less, here it will be high. And other difference can be infrastructure. Infra in rural areas are less well connected, here it will be high, sophisticated, etc., etc. These are the ways how you can differentiate between rural areas and urban areas. And you can also discuss or differentiate between rural and urban areas based on housing. Okay, here there are independent kacha houses will be there more. Here there are more plots or more pakka houses and apartmentization, etc., etc. This is the difference between urban and rural areas. Now, so there is a difference between urban and rural areas, then the livelihoods are also going to be different. So what are the different types of livelihoods in urban areas? According to this chapter, the different types of livelihoods are mainly vendors and government measures. Then market, first one we have to discuss about is market. Market in the cities are crowded during the festivals. There are different shops for selling sweets, toys, clothes, footwear, utensils, etc., etc. This market at the rural level is very small whereas in urban areas this market is very big. So there are markets depending upon the goods which they are sold there. Okay, some markets are agriculture markets, some markets are toy markets, some markets are gold, or some markets are food products are sold here, etc., etc. Depends upon the goods which are being sold there. Okay. First and foremost, what is market? Market is a physical entity. It is a physical entity where sellers and buyers get a normal platform to sell their goods and buy the goods. The sellers want optimum price for their goods and buyers want optimum price and higher profit for them. Okay, this is like normal market, and then there are other people who are involved here, such as license commission agents, and there are also consumers, and there are also traders, and there are also corporate entities. All this come in the picture at a later stage. Okay, so before this we have to understand urban life is different from rural life. You know that. So people of urban area are engaged in different forms of livelihood or different forms of activities. Some are rickshaw pullers, some are vendors, some are business persons, some are shopkeepers, etc., etc. Okay, depends upon the work as well as their skills. People work on their own. They are not employed by union. Most of the people, not all the people. Many of the people who are employed by the IT companies. Some people who own the shopkeeper or shops or vendors, they employ themselves. There are almost 1 crore street vendors in the country working in urban areas, and in the urban market one can find variety of shops. You know that, shops selling sweets, toys, clothes, footwear, utensils, etc., etc. There are garment showrooms too, and there are malls, etc., etc. Okay, and then after vendors there are businessmen, business persons in the market, or those who manage their own shops or businesses. They are not employed by anyone, but they do employ a number of other workers as supervisors and helpers. Okay, they employ others. And in urban market has a small office and shops that provide services such as banks, courier services and others. Okay, so this is service aspect of the urban areas, and this is manufacturing and employment aspect of the urban areas. And the number of daily wage laborers can be found in the city also. They work as a helpers to masoners. Okay, that is Gaundi, like the people who are working in construction industry. Okay, construction. And there are also people who work under industry or factory. There are different types of works or livelihoods. Okay, example they are giving here is several urban people are engaged in factories such as garment factories. In garment factory, most workers are usually employed on as casual basis, meaning there is no permanent basis. They are required to come as and when the employer needs them. Jobs on a casual basis are not permanent. There is no job security, and workers are expected to work very long hours and do not get any facilities. Okay, that we already know these things, but still it is just given in the chapter, so I am explaining. You might think, why sir is teaching all these things? We already know these things. I know you already know these things, but just listen to these things because it is present in NCERT. So many workers in the city who work in offices, factories and government departments where they are employed as regular and permanent workers, and permanent and regular workers avail several benefits such as saving for old age, holidays, medical facilities, etc. Okay, these permanent and regular workers can be employed either in private or employed in public such as in public government employees, in private such as IT employees. Okay, so it differs. In big cities, working in call centers has become the new form of employment. You already know that. Now it has become a norm now. So call centers are generally set up as large rooms with workstations that include a computer, telephone set and a supervisor stations. Now India has moved past these call centers. Now India are focusing on producing products and also providing services at a higher rate. Okay, so these are the different types of employer like livelihoods in India, urban areas. That is, vendors are those who sell things on a daily basis to going door to door. Urban areas, there are towns and cities. In urban areas there are different types, towns and cities. Towns are a bit smaller, whereas cities are larger. Within cities there are metropolitan cities which are even larger, and business persons are one who earns livelihood by engaging himself in some sort of businesses. Employer is the one who gives jobs to someone. Normally business person employs certain number of people in their businesses, and casual workers is someone who is engaged in a temporary work. And the labor choke, what is labor choke? Normally in urban areas, it is a place where daily wage laborers gather together with their tools and wait for the people to come and hire them for work. Okay, this is reducing nowadays, because normally even the people who collect the daily wage workers also have some sort of agreement between them that you are going to work for so and so weeks, so and so months. So normally you don't see these labor chokes, but previously there was some sort of labor chokes in particular urban areas where people used to come and gather with their tools, and they are going to work depending upon the day's need. And then there is call center dashboard. Hawker is the one who sells things by going from place to place asking people to buy them. This is like you would have seen the salesmen. Okay, normally salesmen do these things. They go from like house to house. They ask people to buy these books, etc., etc. Books or any kind of goods, etc., etc. So this is how different types of employers are there. So main difference between urban and rural, you could have guessed here, is in urban areas it is more with respect to manufacturing, business and services, whereas in rural areas it is more has to do with farming and non-farming activities. Okay, they are very local in nature, whereas these are multilateral in nature, not just local, they are also connected in different cities and villages. Okay, so nothing of that sort which is very important. So I explained this thing: salesperson, marketing manager, factory workshop area, factory area, showrooms. Showrooms are business persons that are not employed by anyone, but they employ the number of workers as supervisor helpers. They get a license from municipal corporation to open the showrooms. Normally you might have seen showrooms for bike, showrooms for car, etc., etc. Those are called as showrooms. And business persons, we have explained market, we have explained vendors. Okay, so the vendors are those who are like, there are some shops. Okay, so shops on the pavement, vendors sell the things prepared at the homes like snacks and food. Street vending is an obstruction to traffic, so the government has introduced measures to reduce the number of vendors. Hawking zones have been suggested for the towns and cities. These are all the past, because this NCERT is old, so no need to go deep into it. Just the need was to complete the chapter. So complete the chapter, so not very important, but you could just, whenever you are eating or whenever you are lunch or dinner, like instead of watching something else, you can watch this. Okay, so this ends our discussion on polity class 6. If you have any doubts, I don't think you will have any doubts regarding this chapter, because very simple and very general and very basic in nature. But still, even then, if you have any doubts, you can write in the comment box. And if you think you like the video, then hit on the like button. Also comment on it and share with your friends. And if you are new to the channel, then subscribe to the channel and also click on the bell icon so that you don't miss any notifications. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind.